Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today we need to talk about a really fascinating trade rumor over the last week that has gone on with Auston Matthews potentially leaving the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, Nick Kypreos and Sportsnet had a whole interesting segment talking about Matthews and his future with Toronto, but what could happen with Matthews? Could he leave the Maple Leafs? Where could he go? And what are the latest news surrounding him? Watch till the end for the latest breakdowns and the latest trade rumors, and of course hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. 50% of you guys aren't subscribed, so if you like hockey content, this channel is the place to be. Now, when it comes to talking about Auston Matthews and his future with Toronto, I always find it pretty funny because he still has this year and next on his contract, so we're looking at a long time away for even a possibility of movement. But at age 25, of course, the franchise center for the Toronto Maple Leafs hasn't had the greatest start, and even didn't have the greatest start last year, but of course ended up getting 60 goals, 106 points in 73 games, was one of the best players in the second half, especially. This year, though, in 24 games, has 11 goals, 15 assists, 26 points, is still playing pretty well for how he's playing. I mean, the point production, I think, is astounding because I don't think he's been as good nearly as he has been in the past, but at the same time, he's still one of the best centers in the league. And if he were to go to the open market somehow, he would get league-breaking numbers in his contract. It would be pretty nuts. But even though Auston Matthews has this year and next still on his contract, that hasn't stopped the rumor mill from swirling and getting a lot of conversation going. We go on now to this tweet from Sportsnet 590, The Fan, on a recent spot by Nick Kypreos, and this tweet was interesting. What's on the horizon for Auston Matthews? Real Kipper Nick Kypreos shared the latest rumblings about the Leafs star on the Fan Morning Show today, and with the graphic, it shows the quote here. I think there's a lot of people that believe Auston Matthews could leave. A lot of people that I talk to on a consistent basis. Now, this quote is absolutely wild, just coming out of nowhere, but it is interesting with Kypreos talking about Auston Matthews' situation and the possibility of Matthews leaving. Now, there's a lot of key wording in here saying that there's a lot of people that believe Matthews could leave, not that he will leave, but at the same time, according to Kypreos, there's a growing sense that there is at least a chance that Matthews, especially in free agency, could be on his way out. Now, the thing is, we've heard countless times that Matthews is extremely happy with the Leafs, extremely happy being there in Toronto, and I absolutely believe it, but it might also be a situation where it comes down to cap space. Will the Leafs have enough to actually re-sign Matthews to what he would want and at what he'd be deserving of getting? That's the real question. I mean, obviously we've seen the Nathan MacKinnon contract recently as well, him taking another slight pay cut, it seems. But with Matthews, I feel like he's less likely to do that, especially, of course, being in the Canadian market. I think he's going to want as much as humanly possible. Now, of course, the Leafs still could make the room to get that done, but them being such a competitive team makes it way harder. I mean, the Avs were barely able to do it, and they've constructed their cap incredibly well. With Matthews, it's going to be a tough negotiation. Now, let's use the godsend of cap friendly to see if the Leafs could afford him, not just now, but in those next couple of years, see what their cap situation could look like. And when I look at what Auston Matthews is going to be asking for, to me, there is a 99.9% chance that he becomes the highest paid player, whether that's with the Leafs or not. He's going to be asking for at least $13 million, in my opinion, and that's what he should be asking for, at least if this current trend of goal scoring continues and he continues to be the best goal scorer in the league. This year it hasn't quite been the case yet, but I mean, there's obviously a lot of time to turn it around. But you see right now they have a current cap space of $6.3 million, but that's not what we're worrying about. But thankfully with cap friendly, they give us an idea of what the Leafs could look like in a couple of years time. If you look at this in the roster statistics and you go down to the cap hit statistics and projected cap hit, projected cap space, they right now have $0 in projected cap space. But this next offseason, they have projected $12 million in cap space, but after that, they have a projected $55.9 million. Now, you still, of course, have deals like John Tavares and Mitch Marner on their books, which are the big ones really keeping it back. But as you can see with Auston Matthews at 25 years old, he has this year and next at 11.6 and will become a UFA. And that part of being a UFA was such a big part of the deal he signed just a couple of years ago. A shorter deal, but also a deal that would bring him into UFA and would have the chance to get a lot more money, which, especially on Matthews' part, was extremely smart to do. But of course, he'll be in his later 20s by the time the deal is signed. But as you can see with the Leafs, the only players they have signed up to that point would be Marner, Tavares, and Calle Yarncroc of all people. But those are the only players with terms. So I feel like the Leafs are going to obviously be building around Matthews and going to keep trying to bring him on. But it's obvious that with their cap situation, for the most part, they're locked in to be able to keep Matthews. They don't have too much term on the roster, especially on that defense and the goaltending, and that allows them to have a lot more flexibility by the time Matthews is up. Now, that 2025 offseason, if Kyle Dubas is still around, will be a heck of a busy one. You got Matthews, you got Nylander, you got a bunch of different guys on that defense like Liljegren and Sandin coming off their deals, so it's not going to be an easy one whatsoever, but Matthews will be the #1 target, and there's a case to be made that maybe by the time 2025 happens, the Leafs just let Nylander go into free agency. There's a decent possibility of that, I would say, and even though it would be great to keep him on, he's going to be asking for a pay raise, he's going to be asking for more, and especially when you're trying to bring in Matthews, who's I would assume is going to be asking at least for a $2.5 million raise, that comes into question whether they'll actually get a deal done or not. But I could see the Matthews camp getting a lot of money here, and the Leafs really having no choice but to submit and be in the conversation for maybe a $14 million contract. It could get that crazy. Let's be honest, right now, Nathan MacKinnon, if he went into free agency somehow right now, would probably get upwards of $13 million, 13.5. If Auston Matthews 2 years ahead of time with the cap rising becomes a UFA, it's gonna be massive money. I could see a team having a $15 million contract on the table, multiple teams in fact, just going for it and seeing if they can actually get this deal done, because if he goes to free agency, it's gonna be the Wild West. But I have a feeling that, especially for Matthews on the Leafs side, they're gonna get a deal done eventually. I don't have too many worries about that. It just feels like the fit is still great, and the Leafs as well have been pretty smart to not build too many long-term contracts to really impede the progress of a Matthews contract. So right now, I would still say I don't have many doubts about Matthews leaving, but let's say the Leafs just are incompetent continually in the playoffs. Maybe Matthews wants to go to a different contender, but at the same time, how many contenders have $14, $15 million to spend? Not too many, I'd feel. But I would also imagine if he was to go into free agency, there would be a ton of teams desperately trying to make the cap space to bring him on. I mean, a team like the LA Kings comes to mind, especially by the time that Matthews is off his deal. There's a chance that Kopitar is all and retired. I mean, even though you probably want to have players like Quinton Byfield taking that next step, it's not a guarantee. And Matthews as a first-line center in LA would be absolutely prolific. So I could see teams like that although might not have the cap space now, would really want to make the cap space happen if he were available, because you only get a chance to sign Matthews every once in a while. If he goes to free agency, there's a case to be made that he would be maybe the biggest free agent signing ever if he were to go to a different team. There's a great case to be made there, and easily one of the best goal scorers to ever be made available in free agency. So I think a ton of teams would be after him, and now thinking about it now, it would probably be even more than $15 million for some teams. I think some teams that offer 16. If the cap's really going up, teams are going to make gangbusters for him. They're going to be doing everything, rolling out the red carpet, getting some champagne for him, because it's going to be a battle, a war. And looking at the teams that could maybe sign him in a couple of years, obviously you have the troll rumors of him going to Arizona. I don't see that happening, but hey, I mean, by the time that a Matthews contract happens, maybe the Coyotes have a new arena. That could be something, I guess, but I also really don't see it happening. I could see the LA Kings happening. That would be a ton of fun. There are some teams in the West Coast that I think could really be a fun fit. Teams maybe like San Jose, if they want to go that crazy. Maybe Seattle in a couple of years. I'm not sure. Again, it's hard to project in 2 years' time who's going to actually have the cap space and the situation to make things work. But I think there's still a lot of teams that will be going after him, will be trying to make a deal happen, and it's Auston Matthews. Teams are going to be lining up no matter what, and the Leafs will have a lot of competition. I think Matthews knows that. I think there's at least a good chance that maybe Matthews goes into free agency for like a week, tests the water, maybe still even signs with the Leafs, but make sure he can get the lay of the land, make sure he can get as many offers as possible to decide his fate, because again, if the Leafs are going to be incompetent in the playoffs these next couple of years, maybe Matthews wants to have a change of scenery, maybe by that point he wants to win even more, and I could see a situation where he goes to a different team wants to see more success. Now, if he signs a $15 million deal, I'm not sure if you'll actually get that, because signing that type of deal really limits the team's cap space, but at the same time, it might be what he wants. But I would also say right now that there's still like a 95% chance that he re-signs with the Leafs, and I still think that he will be a Leaf for most of his career at least, and especially throughout his prime, because it feels like for the Leafs, they're still doing a lot to make sure that they'll be able to keep him by the time that contract comes up, and I think that is incredibly smart for them to do. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this Matthews situation. Could you see him going to a different team? What do you think will happen there? Because I think there's so many different possibilities here. You have one of the best goal scorers of these last couple of generations potentially on the field for free agency, and as Nick Kypreos said, there's more and more talk that potentially Matthews could be leaving the Leafs. But let us know, in 2 years' time, do you see him leaving Toronto? Where could he potentially go? What contract do you think he'll sign? How high do you see that AAV going? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, share the video with all the hockey and Leafs fans you guys know online, and click this card for all my trade rumor content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.